Started the recording for today's session. Okay, now I am officially recording today's session. Welcome everyone to the Command Volunteer Advisor Call for March of 2021. And before we get started, if you notice when you came into the site today, the first thing you saw was a flyer regarding the Army Reserve Family Programs Town Hall that is going to be scheduled for the 31st of March at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Say again. I heard someone have a question.
Could you repeat the time?
It's going to be 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Alrighty.
On Wednesday, March 31st. And it will be a recorded session also, but we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get started. But welcome everyone to this great day. And we have some great information for you today. But before we get started, passing out all this great information, I want to bring to you the Director of Army Reserve Family Programs, Colonel William Claybrook. Sir?
Hey, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon again. My name is Colonel William Claybrooks. I'm so happy to be on the Command Volunteer Advisor monthly meeting today. We have some wonderful topics to talk about. Of course, TAPS. Dr. Dooley, welcome. We are interested in hearing your presentation today, as well as Red Cross. I don't know if Miss Salcedo came up on the net yet, but we are interested in hearing her updated speech on Red Cross.
I'm here, sir.
Oh, you here? Okay. Oh, great. Welcome. Both are great programs. So I'm sure the audience will get a better understanding of your programs and all the unique things that you present and offer in support of our Army Reserve community. I would be remiss if I didn't introduce Mr. John McCarthy, excuse me, and he is our senior command volunteer advisor. So, sir, without further ado.
Thank you very much. I scanned the read aheads. I didn't get a chance to look at them in detail. I was a little bit busy this morning, but in any event, I'm excited to hear what the presenters have. And with that, thank you for coming. And if we get broken away somehow, happy St. Patrick's Day early to everyone. So back to you, sir.
Roger that. Hey, the hour is fast upon us. So without further ado, James, let's go ahead with the first presentation. Over.
Roger that, sir. Good morning, everyone. First thing we're going to talk about this morning is the TAPS program, and that is tragedy assistance for, I'm not going to get into it. I'll let the professionals tell you all about it. Let me go ahead and put this up on the screen. And without any further ado, I'll give you over to Ms. Davina French. Ms. French.
Thank you very much, James. It's nice to meet you all. And Colonel, it's nice to see you. But I'm going to do a little intro here. I get this as the command volunteer group, and I was once a volunteer. And I volunteered and raised my hand and said I'd defend the Constitution of the United States. And sorry to say this, but I'm from the National Guard. And I retired last year at 29 and a half. I know, Colonel, you're smiling big, but it takes all kinds to make this work. So, so then.
One team, one fight.
Yeah, there you go. So, once you volunteer and somewhere you became an advocate for what you believe in. And I became an advocate for TAPS when I was deployed as a commander in 2003 and 2004 to Iraq and suffered 3 KIAs. And when I came home, I knew that in my heart I never wanted to forget my fallen. And as I got talking to the families, I realized that their biggest fear is they didn't want their service members to be forgotten either. And so this has become, after I retired, this is what I do. This is what I want to do. And it's reaching out to the military side of things. So I bring with me the really smart people, but mostly Dr. Chantel Dooley. She's a survivor herself. And the great thing about TAPS is that about 98% of those who work for TAPS are actually survivors themselves, mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers. And she is she's a surviving, I'm sorry, I got all choked up. I'm sorry, Chantel. Gosh, she's a survivor, and she's a true, got a big heart. You guys are going to find out, but I just want you guys to know, we're going to talk about our tribe. We're going to tell your volunteers about the Tribe for Survivors, because whether it's your survivor outreach program, whether it's casualty, whether it's a neighbor, everybody needs something to connect with. So no further ado, I'd like to introduce Dr. Chantel Dooley for the presentation today.
Thank you, Davina. And oh, I'm sending you a big hug. I felt it in your voice, and you got me choked up too. Just when you were talking about what brought you to TAPS. And my name is Chantel Dooley, and I am the love of a great man by the name of Captain Alex Stanton brought me into the TAPS family. And Alex and I were 5 months away from our wedding. We were on our way to meet with our wedding DJ and finalize the final plans when he was killed in a motorcycle accident. And my world was turned upside down, and I never thought I would ever come out of just the life-altering experience that was now my reality. And it is through the work and the support that I received from TAPS as a survivor and my colleagues, such as Davina French, that I am honored and proud to be serving the mission and provide awareness of our programs and services to those of you that are working with those that are military survivors and are bereaved, and can connect them with programs and services that we have available for free. If we can go to the next slide, please. So we were founded back in 1994, actually following the death of our president and founder. She lost her husband, who was serving in the Army National Guard, in a plane crash. And what she found is that once he was killed, she needed support. She needed someone that she could pick up the phone at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday when she couldn't sleep and was having those flashbacks, and just process what it was that she was living through. And what she found is that support really did not exist. She's a lifetime member of Gold Star Wives and very involved in other organizations providing support, but there was no national organization that was there to provide that emotional support that following a loss you so desperately needed. And we can go on to the next slide. And you'll see that once we were founded with a very broad mission, and that mission is to provide compassionate care to all those grieving the death of a military loved one. Now, the other thing that we've learned in the 27 years of providing hope and healing is that grief is not unique to a marriage certificate. It doesn't know a formal next of kin designation. Grief is an emotional response. And it's an emotional response to love. We have lost someone that we loved, and their life included service to our country. And for that reason, we are the organization to provide that support and comfort to anyone, regardless of how or when their service member died. So we can go on to the next slide. And you'll see that we were founded on 4 core services back in 1994, which are still our core services to this day, and to this day are not offered by any other organization out there. Our backbone of who we are is an organization that delivers peer-based emotional support. We have a 24/7 National Military Survivor Helpline that anyone impacted by a military death can call and get a live answer person on the other end to provide support and guidance. Many of our calls that we take are from military casualty members themselves, that I can only imagine how hard it may be for them to have to know that they're walking up and knocking on the door and forever changing the life of someone and a family. And we're here to provide that support and comfort for the military members, the military community, and the military survivors. I also included on here some of our rankings through our charity watchdogs, and we take our accreditation very seriously. So for us, it's not just about, bringing survivors together for, a meaningful engagement. For us, we have to know that survivors that we are connecting with, we are actually helping them to heal and grow with their grief. And we can go on to the next slide, and you can see that we provide support and comfort to everyone, all manners of death. Doesn't matter if it was a homicide, suicide, murder, suicide, accident, or, an aneurysm. If their life included military service, we are here for all those they loved and left behind. We also provide support for all branches of military service and all duty statuses, to include Guard and Reserve. So even if the accident happens at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday while they're at their job, not in a duty status, we are still here to provide support for the family members. We've also seen a recent increase in the number of military dependents who have lost their lives and are coming and connecting with us, as the military death was not the service member themselves, but one of the dependents. And we are here to provide those connections and support to resources. And we can go on to the next slide, and you'll see that in 2020, last year alone, we welcomed 7,583 new survivors into the TAPS community. And what's important about that number is that for that 7,583, 70% of them were within that first year of loss. And that is really important for us to know, because we know that those survivors are incredibly vulnerable, and a lot of them have been exposed to trauma. And so the resources and care that we provide for those survivors is customized and tailored in order to help meet them wherever they are in their grief journey. We do know that 6% of our survivors that were connected with us last year were grieving the death of their service member that died while in a reserve duty status. And we can go on to the next slide, please. And you'll see that it's really important to us to know how our survivors lost their loved one, so that we know how to provide that comfort and support. And you can see the leading cause of death among our survivors last year was 31% are grieving the death of their loved one who died by suicide. And
Dr. Julie?
Yes, sir.
Quick question. How many folks did you say joined the program that are affiliated with the Army Reserve? I didn't quite catch it. I apologize.
No, sir, that's fine. I will need to pull that exact number for the Army Reserve, but I can tell you that 6% were connected to the reserve. So that's Navy Reserve, Marine Corps Reserve, Army, Air Force.
That's fine. That's roughly right. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And actually, I'll get to that, because we have a wonderful infographic that I can share with you that specifically highlights our support for the Army and an additional component of the Army Reserves. But the leading causes of death are deaths due to suicide and then deaths due to illnesses. And unfortunately, for many of our survivors, those illnesses, the patterns that we're seeing are incredibly rare and very aggressive forms of cancer. Now, what that means for us is that we need to make sure that we are ready to welcome those survivors and provide them support for how to process trauma, how to help them stabilize, how to adjust to life after serving as a caregiver, and then also navigating complicated grief. So we can go on to the next slide, and you'll see that immediately connecting with survivors, we initiate our outreach immediately. And that includes outreach by our survivor care team. And those are dedicated survivors who they themselves have grown in their grief. They've walked this journey. They share a similar experience. And we connect survivors based off of their relationship to their loved one and the duty status, and the manner of death. So we're able to connect a newly bereaved mom who lost her son to suicide with another mom who lost her son to suicide as well, for that immediate support and connection to where they can find their people and know that there is hope. One of the things that we send is because so many survivors, as you all know all too well, we don't know what we need in those immediate days and weeks following a loss. We're still living in shock. And so we send a customized care package to all new surviving households full of resources specific to the age of the survivors and the manner of death that they are grieving. And you'll see in here that we also have incredible resources for children as well. And if we go on to the next slide, I'll go into a little bit more about some of our other programs. So we know that everybody's looking at colleges right now. It's the springtime. We start getting those scholarship applications done. And we have an incredible education assistance program within TAPS that connects military survivors with educational benefits that are out there and available for them at no cost. So last year alone, we connected survivors with over $180 million worth of education benefits. Now, what I really want to make sure you all take away from this is we do not raise money for scholarships. What we do is we connect survivors with the scholarships and education benefits that are already out there and available. And we're very proud that last year we were able to connect survivors with over $180 million. And we can go on to the next slide. So for us, it's very important because a loss happens and military members are leaving behind generations of those that grieve their death. So we make sure that we provide very customized and tailored support across all ages and across all demographics. So just like it's important for surviving moms to connect with other surviving moms, it's important for kids to be able to connect with other kids who also share a similar experience. And my hope is that when we come to a location near you, that you will come and volunteer with us and hear the stories of our loved ones and see how we grow and see how we, well, yes, we miss them each and every single day. We have incredible stories of hope and growth and beautiful resilience following the loss of the people that we love. And I want to draw your attention, everybody in this photo that's wearing a red shirt, they are a military surviving child. And they're coming to connect with our youth programs, which include good grief camps, family campouts, early childhood programs, and even customized programs for young adults. But the blue shirts that are in here, those are members of the military. And they volunteer their time to be a big brother, big sister for these military kids at our TAPS youth programs. And a lot of them are serving and volunteering in honor of their fallen brothers and sisters, so that they know that they're able to still provide that continued support. And we can go on to the next slide, and you'll see that what's important for us is that the military is a beautiful community, and immediately following a loss, they do a phenomenal job of just surrounding those left behind with all the comfort, resources, and tuna casserole that you could ever imagine. But the problem is when that tuna casserole is eaten and, you know, the birthday rolls around or the holidays come around, there's still that empty seat at the table. And you can't forever and always, you know, rely, the world keeps moving. And so what survivors need is they need to figure out how to take those steps forward in a positive way to move forward, honoring the love and cherishing the legacy of their loved one, but finding that new normal. And so when survivors come to our retreats, they set intentions. And these are some of the intentions set by some of the survivors that have attended with us. And they really resonate so beautifully with what it is like to be trying to navigate this new normal alone. And this is what we set out to do. We are a lifelong companion for survivors in every stage of their grief as they grow in honor of their loved one. And we can go on to the next slide. And you'll see that it would be phenomenal if this little dot right here, this first dot was the death, and then the second dot was the funeral. So, you know, I got the notification, you know, they've died. I've coped. I took my 3 days of bereavement leave, and I'm back to work, and, you know, grief is healed. And if we go to the next slide, we'll see that that is absolutely not the way it works at all. It is a hot mess, and you'll notice that that's an arrow, and that arrow implies that it continues on and on and on for forever. And if we go to the next slide, you'll see that the reason we are here, the reason TAPS exists, is to provide that source of support and that peer professional companionship that only those who have experienced a similar loss or who have walked a similar journey can share. Survivors need information to be able to connect with others in similar groups. So similar relationships, manner of death, and then even their generation level. Grief of someone who, was, much older in life looks very different from someone who's, 18 and fresh-faced, just joined. But then also programming on topics to help normalize the grief experience. Military survivors and those that are bereaved are not mentally ill. And as much as we wish we could, we can't take a pill for this. We can't put a Band-Aid on it or a cast on it and, 6 weeks of physical therapy and then you're back to normal. It is a broken heart. And how do you repair a broken heart? Well, with love. And that is what we offer. We offer that love, that friendship, and that companionship to help rebuild our lives. And then also tangible and practical tools. How do we manage money? How do we integrate positive coping tools to help make sure that our grief journey is a healthy one and not one that can veer off into a further tragedy? So we can go on to the next slide. And you'll see that we have a model of how we do this. So when survivors are connected with us, first and foremost, we do immediate safety and stabilization evaluation. What is it that survivor needs? Do they need funds to help keep the lights on, money to help cover the mortgage until the insurance kicks in? Do they need a post-mortem cleanup because the suicide happened within the home? What is it that they need so that they can be immediately stabilized? And we provide that. And then also about 6 to 9 months post-loss, that grief fog has lifted and the reality sinks in that they're dead and they're not coming back. And so what do I need? I need to connect with others that share a similar experience, and I need to make sure that I'm on a healthy path for a healthy grief journey. And then finally, about 18 months post-loss, I now need to make sure that I'm using my experience to derive meaning and purpose and make meaning from this loss and grow by serving as a mentor to another newly bereaved survivor or establishing new relationships that were never possible before this experience. And if we go on to the next slide, you can see that the most critical element of this entire presentation is connecting survivors immediately following a loss. That immediate connection is so critical because we find that when we're immediately connected with survivors, they are more likely to answer the phone, seek support, be open to connecting with resources and programs that we have available, all at no cost to military survivors. And then the other thing that we see is that survivors are less likely to experience complicated grief when they have an immediate support system put in place that is going to be there for the duration of their grief journey. I want to draw your attention to this photo real quick. This photo is one of my most favorite photos in this entire slide deck that you're going to see. You're going to see this little guy is the son of this soldier. And you'll see that while he's holding his dad on a paddle fan, he's also wearing a button. And that button on his shirt is his dad. And we wear these buttons when we come together. And the reason we do that is because our mission is to focus on honoring the life and service rather than how and where they died. And for us, as long as we're always speaking their name and sharing their stories, then they truly are never gone. And it helps to develop that new sense of normal, that new relationship with those that we loved and are no longer with us. So we can go on to the next slide. And I also want to share with you a practical tidbit is that we have an entire Institute for Hope and Healing where we offer webinars specific for military survivors, the bereaved, and the military community. And last year we had over 14,000 registrants that connected with us for the TAPS Institute sessions. All of these sessions are free. Now, if you are a person that needs CEU credits, there is a small fee just for the CEU credits. But other than that, all of our webinars are available at no cost to you, and they're recorded and archived on our website as well. So I would love for you to take advantage of those. You can also visit taps.org/institute and sign up to be included on the distribution email so that you're notified when we get new programs that become available. And if we go on to the next slide, so how can you help? First and foremost, our call to action is to connect survivors immediately. We are a 24/7 organization with a live answer helpline. Please connect all survivors immediately with our organization. And then secondly is to share the mission. When you hear of anybody that could benefit, even if it's a person who's no longer in the military but has retired and has passed and left behind loved ones, we are here to help. We can help in many, many ways. And then lastly is to engage with us. So follow us on social media, share our posts on social media, distribute our materials within your locations, and encourage people to come and volunteer with us. Davina can share more about serving as a military mentor to a grieving child, but it's truly remarkable to be able to bear witness to how we grow with our grief. And then if we go on to the next slide, you're going to see that the way that survivors are connected with us is through that DA form 4475 following a casualty. We get those next of kin lists, but also through our 24/7 helpline. Please, 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 1-800-959-TAPS will get you immediately connected and get survivors connected with us. Also, for those of you that are on the call, you can always shoot us an email, myself or Davina, at usar@taps.org, and we're happy to answer any questions, send you resources or materials that you can have on hand for your briefings. And then if we go on to the next slide, you'll see that you can also call on us to provide this briefing to other audiences. So we are very fortunate in that we're able to provide briefings for Army casualty. Also for survivor outreach services, we do briefings for senior military leadership, and then also senior spouses and different spouse organizations and spouses clubs. So we are always happy to share the message and the mission. And with that, I want to thank you very much for your time and welcome Davina back to answer any questions you may have.
Good job, Chantel. Anybody have any questions?
I just have a comment. I'll say, Chantel, over here in Europe, we just had a great presentation for TAPS. They're really beating down on the casualty team over here to get them up to speed. And so it was amazing. And I love you guys. I heard you guys with Karen not too long ago. You do such a great job. Thank you for what you do and your passion for the program. It's without you, it wouldn't be a driving force. I mean, and everybody else too. Don't get me wrong, but you are so passionate, and I appreciate you so much. Over.
Thank you very much. I do want to say one thing. Mr. McCarthy, you asked about the percentage, and it runs about 6%. I sent an infographic over to James, so please forward that on, James, and it has the Army, the Guard, and the Reserves all on the yearly spreadsheet. But one of the things we're trying to change, and we're trying to change at the highest levels, which is where the leadership all comes in, is when you're active duty, it's an immediate, if somebody dies, regardless of what the circumstances, there's only one status, and that is active duty. In the Guard and the Reserves, by regulation, and I won't get into the down and dirty, but by regulation, it states that the reportable deaths are those that are on active duty. So there's times when the Guard and Reserve are on weekend drills or 2 weeks, their 2-week annual trainings or a deployment. But if it's a Monday or a Tuesday or a Wednesday and they fall off the curb or they do take their own life, those are not necessarily mandatory reportables, and that's the one piece we would like to change. We truly believe, and I'd like to see it. When I retired, I said I'm going to dedicate myself to this, and one of the things is, there's two things. If you signed on the dotted line and you raised your hand in an oath of enlistment, that should qualify you right there through the military. And I know we're fighting an uphill battle, but the other thing is, and Colonel Claiborne, you can attest to this, is there's some power with the SGLI form. If you have SGLI and you raised your hand everybody should have coverage on this. So those are, just so everybody understands, those are goals of ours, to partner with the reserves and the Guard and everybody out there, is to say everybody is important regardless of your duty status. So I just wanted to make that perfectly clear that eventually, maybe next year, we can say we got this battle done.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome, sir. But thank you so much for the opportunity. And James, barring no more questions, looks like we're on schedule for the Red Cross.
Outstanding. And what an exceptional segue we just had.
James, can I jump in and drag us back a little bit?
Yes, sir.
So, ladies, thank you very much. I'm showing my ignorance, but I'm pretty confident I didn't know you all existed out there. This program existed, and I'm thankful that you made the time to come here today. Here's my hope, and if you could, and there's no rush to it, find the data point where it's Army Reserve. If it's within your capability to go into the joint number or the joint reserve numbers and get down to Army Reserve. And here's why. I'd like to see you come back next year, or maybe a year and a half, because there'll be new leadership, and there'll be new spouses, new senior spouses. Maybe we can have a data point to say, okay, in 2020 it was whatever percent of 6%, 2%, and that number. In 2021, because everyone on this call listened intently and wrote down the phone numbers and the email, or not the email addresses, but the internet site and the DA form 4475 and all that important stuff, maybe that number goes up and we're successful in getting the word out. I've bloviated long enough, but if someone could find that data point, I'm going to write it down in my book. And then if someone can take this on as an asker to invite these guys, pejorative, back in a year and a half to 2 years. Put it on the long-range planning calendar, please. Over.
Roger that, sir. That's all in my wheelhouse. Yes, sir.
And Mr. McCarthy, I can tell you, sir, that in 2019, 4% of all of our survivors were Army Reserve. And then in 2020, that number was repeated. 4% of all of our Army survivors were Army Reserve.
Okay, so because I didn't have my pen in my hand, so it was 4% of participants of Army participants were Army Reservists.
Yes, sir. Of new survivors were Army Reserve survivors.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
And that was what year was that? Sorry.
For 2019 and 2020.
2019.
So it has stayed constant at 4% over the last 2 years.
I bet you we could get that up to 10% in 2 years. Because hopefully other senior spouses here are going to ask you to participate and brief in their spouse network thing, whatever they got going on. Anyway.
We welcome that.
Thank you. Thanks again, ladies.
Thank you. Thanks, James.
Thank you. Without any further ado, is there any further questions for the ladies from TAPS? If not, I will transfer you over to Ms. Jeanette Salcedo, who is the regional manager for American Red Cross here at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Ms. Jeanette? If you're talking already, you're still on mute. I do that all the time.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I've been talking up a mean storm. I put the camera on, didn't take myself off of mute. I'm sorry. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry, I had to put these glasses on so I can see. As I've gotten older, my hearing is immensely better and my vision is that much worse. So I have to put these on to see my slides. I wanted to thank the ladies for the TAPS presentation. It was outstanding. I am a Gold Star daughter. My father was killed in action in Vietnam in 1968 during the Tet Offensive. It was my mom and 8 kids at that point. So it was a lot to deal with, and there was no support from anybody in 1968. The Vietnam era was markedly different than any other era as far as support for military families. It was kind of a wasteland. There was really not much out there. I remember the morning that the chaplain knocked on the door, and it was one service member by himself for a wife and 8 children, which was a huge mistake. I remember that. As old as I am, I remember that like it was yesterday. So it stays with you forever. 8 kids screaming and crying, and my mother in shock for 2 weeks, sitting at the dining room table and no assistance. And then she was informed that she had 30 days to leave government housing, and that was it for us. So we were completely on our own. As we grew up, as things happened in our lives that we could have used assistance with, there was just nobody there. It was a completely different time. So I'm so happy with the TAPS presentation. It means a lot, and I'm going to keep you guys in mind because I think this program's your program will come in very, very handy for a lot of our service members and veterans. So my name is Jeanette Salcedo. I am the Service of the Armed Forces Regional Program Manager for Fort Bragg and Eastern North Carolina, from Fayetteville down all the way up past Durham. I have that whole area, but 99% of the time I can't get off Bragg. Bragg is very, very busy. Next slide, please. So our mission is to provide humanitarian support to military veterans and their family members around the clock, around the globe, under a trusted symbol. So our mission is a little different than most missions. So Service of the Armed Forces, as a Service of the Armed Forces mobile staff, I PCS and deploy. More than anything else, it's the deployment. I have been to Bagram Airfield in Afghanistan, 2013 to 2014. I served in Africa at Camp Lemonnier in Djibouti, 2017 to 2018, and I think they're trying to deploy me again this year sometime. But our mission is to be where the service members are. So we are on 30 installations around the world. We have stations in Asia and Europe. We have our deployed sites in the Middle East. Next slide, please. That's just my information. If anybody needs anything, please just don't hesitate to reach out. Next slide. Okay, so everybody's heard of Red Cross emergency messages, I'm sure, in the military, but this is kind of like to know your Red Cross before something happens, right? Have the information, know where we are, know who we are, and these for emergency assistance. They can call the 1-877 number. You can go online to the Hero Care Network. I tell everybody to put the Hero Care app on their phone. That's probably the most efficient way anymore. And everybody has a smartphone, and everybody has millions of apps. So just add the app, and we are wherever you are, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Next slide, please. So we have these fantastic resiliency programs. As a Gold Star daughter, it was really important to me that, and it took a while. I've been with Red Cross for 10 years, and I think these came out 2012, maybe 2013, and I was so excited. And then it took a little longer to get the resiliency programs out for the children, but when we did, I was ecstatic because I know what it's like to be a military child. and not just for the loss, but you know, you're moving every 2 years and all of that. It's completely different situation than it is for a regular civilian child. So our resiliency workshops, we have a group called the Reconnection Workshops, and they're effective communication, connecting with kids, stress solutions, emotional grit, diffusing anger, trauma talk, and caregiver of wounded, ill, and injured service members and veterans. And I forgot to add the new one to that, which is actually creating calm in stressful times. We have a mind-body workshop. It's just how your mind and body relate to each other. And there's introduction to mind-body skills, and then using mind-body skills. And I did those in Africa. We did some of the reconnection workshops in Africa and the mind-body workshops in Africa. We flew a facilitator in from Germany who did this. Coping with deployment courses. So it's introduction to psychological first aid and resilience. So it helps family members when a service member is deployed. You know, it gives them all the tips and hints and things that they can use to keep the family together. And then using psychological first aid and building resilience in military children. Now, all of our workshops are done by actively licensed mental health professionals with a master's degree and above, actively licensed mental health professionals, and they are Red Cross volunteers. They are giving us their time to assist the military to do these workshops, and they're specifically trained to work with the military. So something about service to the armed forces is that most of us have some kind of military related background, right? I'm a Gold Star daughter. We have veterans that work with us. I just lost to COVID-19 my VABS lead for the VA. He was a retired colonel that worked with us. So we have retirees, we have veterans, we have spouses and children of military like me, right? And my son was 82nd Airborne for 12 years, and now he's in National Guard. So we're all pretty big military backgrounds. Next slide, please. So the resiliency programs for children are connecting confident coping, and then Roger that communication count. So they do that for 8 to 18 years, and they divide them up though. They don't keep 8 and 18 together. It'll be like 8 to probably 13, and then 14 through 18 in another group. But we do those workshops. There's always 2 facilitators with that. They have special screening and backgrounds to do this. They have special background checks. The workshops for 5 to 18 are the same workshops, but they're called buddy groups, and there is an adult with them in there. There are, like I said, 2 facilitators. There's one that presents the program, and there's one that kind of watches the kids to make sure everything's okay. Now, in the 8 to 18 group, there are no parents in there, so the kids can feel free to say what they want and express their concerns and things that they have. We had a Special Forces service member that was volunteering for us on Fort Bragg, and he went to a workshop to be the second set of eyes in the program, and he said he was astonished that he knew what he went through when he was deployed. He knew how he felt and it affected him. But he had no idea what his children were going through till he heard these children talk. And it gives them freedom to talk, right? No parents around, nothing's being recorded, it's not being reported to anybody. They're just free to say what they want. It kind of complements the military programming. It's available locally, and it's absolutely 100% free of charge. And these programs have proven to be outstanding since they came out. In the beginning, it was a little rough because, you know, ACS was saying, well, they're no different than ours. Well, they actually are. But they've been picked up a lot of steam, especially recently for the pandemic. Next slide, please. So these are our virtual workshops. So creating calm in a stressful time used to be called COVID-19 in the beginning, but we dropped the COVID portion of it because it's really meant for every day and any stressful time, not just a pandemic. So you work on managing the stress of uncertainty and navigating new territory, defining stress, recognizing its impact, healthy communications, learning relaxation exercises, setting goals for building a wellness plan, getting healthy sleep, finding positive perspective, and practicing gratitude. It has been one of our most sought after virtual programs in the pandemic because these are the only 5 that we can present currently. The other ones all have to be in person. We are working on getting some of the children's programs released. And we'll see how that goes. It's because we have a grant that for Red Cross that provides the assistance for these programs, and under the grant we had to do them in person with facilitators, and then they've had to ask for permission to take some of these to a virtual platform. Stress Solutions teaches stress management approaches through learning the signs of stress, practicing relaxation techniques, discussing sleep issues, and more. Effective communication, just exactly what it sounds like, right? Communication styles, seeking clarification, I statements, things like that. Connecting with kids, I think this is a wonderful program. So many of our service members, veterans, Guard and Reserves are young service members, and with children, it's a little more difficult just day to day, even if you weren't in the military, but the military has different challenges, right, for kids. So it teaches common reactions to stress in children, provides practical ways an adult can help children cope, and offers information on when and how to seek professional support. Caregiving of wounded, ill, and injured service members and veterans. I'm so glad that we came up with this one. It provides a caregiver with a way to reduce isolation, incorporate new identities, and build wellness plans to achieve healthy lifestyle and reduce stress. This has been one that the Vet Center had picked up on. They've done quite a few of ours, but the caregiver, so we did the caregiver for them. We had our director for the caregiver, the national caregiver site, come on and at the end and kind of guide people through how to use the site, and she could answer any questions they had for the site. So we connected a few things like that. We usually ask Max Dolan, a peer support to come and talk as well at the end of the presentation. But these are all they're all interpersonal. It's not death by PowerPoint. They're interactive. They talk with this mental health professional in a group setting, and it's hands-on workshop. There are no slides. There is nothing. They literally talk through everything. Next slide, please. So we have other fantastic programs for the American Red Cross on Fort Bragg, and they're available to Reserve and National Guard as well. So we have a volunteer program at Womack Army Medical Center. We place volunteers in just about every department, from credentialed, I can't talk today, I'm so sorry, from credentialed volunteers to just a general volunteer that maybe perhaps helps with admin or logistics. It all ranges. We have doctors and nurses in there, phlebotomists, we have a yoga instructor, and we have quite a few admin folks. So at the hospital as well, we have the pet visitation program. So we have dogs that have gone through a special training program that visit the patients at Womack Army Medical Center, and that is a volunteer program. So the owner and the pet are considered Red Cross volunteers. They both get their own ID badge. We have the dental assistant program. So this program is for military dependents 18 and over that are American citizens. And that caveat is because you have to be an American citizen to be able to get on the military computer site. So then we have our SAF, so our Service Armed Forces Outreach Program. That kind of falls on my side of the house. We do unit briefs, fairs, special events. If they need volunteers to assist with one of their programs, we assist them. We can place volunteers anywhere, Service Armed Forces volunteers anywhere. All they have to do on the base is ask, and we'll provide the volunteer. Our Green Ramp program. So we go to Green Ramp on the airfield, and that's usually where the troops line up to jump, right? So we set up a canteen, and when the flights come in from downrange, we're there and we sit with the family members and have a poster making station. We set up a canteen where everything's absolutely free. There's all kinds of individually wrapped snacks, from crackers and granola bars and trail mix and cookies and all kinds of nice little chewies. And then we have coffee, water, usually Kool-Aid or something like that. We have coloring books and crayons, as well as the poster making station. So the kids and the adults as well, they love that. They love to do the posters. So it keeps them busy till the flight comes in. And then we stay there as the service members come in, as the ceremony is ongoing. And then we don't leave until everything's wrapped up and everybody's pretty much walking out the door. Now we do the same thing for deployments, but the family members usually leave the service members at the company. So we are there for the family members, and we for the service members, and we just provide them information about Red Cross message, make sure they understand, what the process is, and just kind of hang out with them. Sometimes we bring Nerf balls out there and we'll, play football, and most times they're just sleeping on the pack shed floor because they're tired, but we are there for them for that. We have an SAF preparedness program. We can put smoke alarms in homes of military veterans, retirees. If they need smoke alarms in their homes, they just have to contact us. It has to be, non-government housing, of course, because the government housing does their own. Our VAVS, VA SAF veteran program. This is it's our veteran program. So we do VAVS at the VA Volunteer Services Program. We assist the VA with any volunteer needs that they have out there, and any they have like a ready room, they ask for different things every year, like reading glasses or underwear and sports bras and tennis shoes. So if they send us the list, we try to purchase what we can to donate for them. But we support any program that they have. And then any veterans program, we support all the, we support any veterans program that's out there. They just have to contact us to be part of it, like their resource fairs, veterans resource fairs, veteran stand downs. We'll be there for anything that all they have to do is reach out. So our military family outreach program is MFOP. Anybody that enters the military, we are there at MEPS. They're presented a brief by the Red Cross, and they fill out a family information card. Then we contact that family member and let them know about Red Cross Service of the Armed Forces. And if there is an emergency, that they can contact us on the 1877 number, and then send them the all of our information either via email or snail mail. They'll get our volunteer information. That's a way for us to reach out to that family of that recently inducted service member. And then we have our Service of the Armed Forces Emergency Communication Message casework. So ECM, Emergency Communication Message. It's at 1-877-272-7337, or online, or on the app. So the call centers answer the phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for any emergency regarding the service member. It's usually an emergency at home. It's an emergency at home that the service member, that they need the service member's immediate attention for, right? So either just a call to let them know, or an emergency call to request that person come home. So we do that 24/7. I still assist with those follow-up cases to make sure the families were taken care of. And then financial aid, they'll call the 1-877 number if it's financial assistance. It'll come through us usually if it's a veteran or retiree as a critical community service. And we offer referrals for financial assistance. We've also taken on international humanitarian law. So we have briefers that go out and brief on international humanitarian law. It kind of helps family members sometimes understand what could happen, right? And what the laws are, excuse me, in different areas, and how things are handled under international humanitarian law. It's something that they've just given to Red Cross not too long ago, and we're still working on building that program, excuse me. And then we have the IHL Youth Action Campaign. So it's the International Humanitarian Law Youth Action Campaign. We call it YAC. It is for school children. So it's high school, college age kids. They will build a campaign of their own to spread the word about the international humanitarian law. They will be the ones that present it to their youth groups, within their clubs, within their schools. And that's a campaign that we are building right now. Through COVID, quite a few of our leads have fallen away, and unfortunately our people for that one have fallen away. So we're rebuilding that. But I have so many, I've been on Fort Bragg for 10 years, so I have a lot of connections with the community here. So I was able to give the new person that information so we can hit the ground running with that. And then we have international services, restoring family links. So the Red Cross does this service, and we can reconnect family members that have been separated from war or disaster, anything like that. We have a program where we actually search for that family member and try to reconnect them. I don't know why it says, oh, volunteer, okay. Volunteer at the Macomb office, that's my office, that's the main office. We sit between, we have Armed Forces Command, ForceCom on one side and Garrison Command on the other. We're the little red brick building in between. So we always need volunteers over there to assist in the office and to assist with any number of the programs that we do out of that office, which is mainly the outreach program. We have an outreach youth club, and it's run out of the chapter in Fayetteville on Carroll Street. And they also assist with a lot of the military outreach, like the YAC program for kids. Disaster preparedness and training is also out of the Carroll Street office. And they do have, and I wish I would have put it on here, but I think I sent you the sheet for that was the programs and services. It explains a little bit more of what the disaster preparedness training is. They do have some youth programs as well on there. Next slide, please.
Ma'am, you have a hand from Ms. Martha Rosende.
Oh,
Oh, hi, this is Marta. I have a couple of questions on your workshops, the Resiliency Workshop program for kids and the virtual workshops. We, the reserve soldiers and their families, they are not in an installation. They are all over the country, at the same thing as the National Guard, I'm sure you know. So yeah. How can we get access to those programs, those workshops? And I'm talking about people that really don't know where to go to hear. They don't have the installation, so they cannot go to a Red Cross office there. How can we get those resources?
We can set something, especially the virtual programs now, we can set something up where they can actually do it virtually. Those are all those virtual things. It doesn't matter where you are. What we'll do is somebody like you would request it For you want a certain day, a certain time, you give me a couple of different days that you would that you could use it, because we may not be able to get your first day in, but maybe we can get the second date that you have. So send me a couple of days that might work, and then we'll set it up. We have our subject matter expert is Johnny Jernigan. I fill out the request form, I send it to Johnny. He makes sure we have facilitators. He sends me the information and the link, and then we send that out to you, and all you have to do is send that out to your folks and let them know this is, you can now send.
Okay, so
Go ahead.
so the question also is since I'm not in Fort Bragg or in North Carolina, I'm in California, and I'm a volunteer at the Red Cross as well. So I know where to go here at the Red Cross to my service armed forces person here, and maybe work through them. But what about people that really don't know where to go? I'm talking about a unit in Los Angeles, for example, or somewhere else. Where can I point people to be able to contact somebody to get this information if it's not through you?
So you can go to redcross.org, and I think it's redcross.org/SAF, right? Service Armed Forces.
Okay.
And
okay, and if yeah, and let me ask you a question. And if we want, as soon as you can have those meetings in person, we will coordinate also at the redcross.org SFA for them to come and do a presentation in the units if we wanted to do it in person.
Yeah, if you don't know who your local SAF person is, the best thing to do is to go online. And once they can have the in-person, they will do that. They will, yeah. They'll set it up and they will come. We've done it for National Guard before. We've done it for military units. Right now, we're working with the Vet Center, the Cohen Clinic, to do the virtual programs. But yeah, as soon as Red Cross allows us to go live again, and we're all waiting on that. So as soon as they allow us to go live again, yeah, you just reach out. If you don't know who the person is, if they don't know who the person is in that area, redcross.org will definitely find the information for them.
Okay, I have another question now. Volunteers. You guys have a lot of volunteers. That's how you do your job.
Yes.
One of the questions I have is our soldiers deployed, right? So the way I see it is when our soldiers are deployed, it will be your gray sky. When they are not deployed, it will be our blue sky. How can we use those volunteers to help us? Maybe reaching out to the families of our soldiers when they're deployed. Let's say we have a volunteer group that we make phone calls, but unfortunately we have a hard time getting those volunteers because those are usually the families that are their spouse or the family member is deployed. Therefore, maybe they don't have the time to volunteer and they're pretty isolated. I'm thinking that maybe through the service armed forces, they can help us reaching out to those families and just sometimes it's just a phone call, a 5-minute, 10-minute phone call.
Yeah,
is there a way to work out that with you guys?
Yes, ma'am. We have done compassionate care calls is what we do. We'll set up a compassionate care team.
Okay.
And they can make those calls. You just reach out to Service Armed Forces in your area. And if you are having issues with them, contact me and we can get it started. It doesn't matter. We can get it started here if we have to, if they can't do it there, okay?
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So this is just our office information. We have a office at the ground floor of Womack Army Medical Center, and it's specifically for the volunteers at the hospital because they are always so busy they really don't have time for anything else. And then the main office is where I am on Macomb Street. Both offices are currently closed to the public, but we are still doing everything in mitigated protocol, right, for COVID. But we're still doing everything that we did before, including Green Ramp. We can't be out there, but I get all the snacks and supplies and information together, and the unit comes and picks it up. So we're still helping what we can. We help with the DoD schools. I purchased 120 water bottles, 180 masks, 42 thermometers. the forehead thermometers for the DoD schools so they could hand them out to service members' families that were really in need. You have another question?
Yes, well, ma'am, it's more of a statement. I used to drive the golf cart over at Womack.
Yes.
I don't know if they're still doing that. Oh, look at that. Thank you. No, thank you for coming and giving this brief. I'm going to try to be quick because we're a little bit over, and does anyone have any questions for our Miss Jeanette? Having heard none, ma'am, thank you.
You're welcome.
For joining us. You all can hang on. I have a little bit of business I got to do for but the rest of you all can listen, like especially if you're getting paid to be here. Okay, so this is called the Command Volunteer Advisory Monthly Meeting. I'm not sure. I'd ask you, Colonel Claybrooks.
Yes.
Think about changing the name of this forum. If I were to poll, I would say most of the people on this call are getting paid to be here. And it's good information for them. I got it. How do we get family members on here to, not necessarily volunteers either, to really look at this great information? I don't think I've ever had a bad briefing or, information that's been put out. And James, for you putting this together, thank you very much. I think this is successful. But if it's not getting out, it's not as successful as it could be. So think about renaming it, and think about renaming it, and then either ask for permission or whatever. Now, if there's some regulatory thing for us as command volunteers that we have to do, I personally am more than happy to show up on a Saturday or a Sunday or a Tuesday to do that type of thing. We got to get the word out. This TAPS, Red Cross, last month, we're having Easter Seals coming up. They're doing great stuff. And we just got to get the word out. To Martha's question to the Red Cross, to Jeanette, when she said, can we get folks to call spouses or families when they're deployed? In my mind, Martha, I was kind of thinking about the same thing, but I'd offer this. That's what SFRG should be doing. That company level team should be, and the unit leadership should be reaching out to deployed soldiers. Anyway, I will shut my pie hole, and because I know we're running over, there weren't any questions. Any of you folks out there that have good ideas about a name for this forum, work it on up to Colonel Claybrooks, please, or to James.
This is Jeanette. I was going to say, can you record these and make them accessible?
They are being recorded.
Okay, I was going to say if they're recorded, then perhaps people can go on. But it would be great information for everybody. And yes, the SFRG is supposed to be reaching out, but sometimes they're not as strong as they should be. But if that's something that we can assist with, we're more than happy to do so.
Thanks, ma'am. That's my personal big push, and my bride is going to help me with that as best as she can. So I get any name recommendations, get it on up to to James, and there. And
Thank you, sir.
I'm gonna shut up now.
Well, thank you, sir. And again, just for everyone's edification, this session is recorded, and all of the slides you've seen today, as well as flyers and any handouts that were provided to me by the briefers, will be sent in my follow-on email along with the URL for the YouTube video for this course, as I do each month. At the end of the day, I'll save this video to the YouTube site, and then I'll send out the URL with the briefers information as well as any other slide decks and any content that they provided to us for those CVAs or family members that were not able to make the call. You'll
One
get that
comment,
today.
John. Yeah, John, one comment, last thing. You mentioned maybe doing this on Saturdays, on the weekends. What I try to do, the course that we do for the sisters, we wanted to do it at night or on the weekends, but the feedback I got, it was that the families wanted their time on the weekends and on nights. So that's why it was hard to make them on the weekend. Just a comment for you to
Yeah,
have.
no, Martha, yeah, and it's a valid point, but, yeah, I hear you.
Well, again, yes, sir. But again, everyone, thank you, ladies, for coming out today, providing this great information for us. And if you notice, I put up on the screen again, just a constant reminder, 31 March at 8 o'clock p.m., we will have a CG sponsored town hall featuring our own Mr. John McCarthy as one of the panelists. Give him a hand.
Where'd you get that picture with my daughter in there? It's an old picture.
Sir, we have resources that find information.
Oh, all right.
We're the government, sir. We can find things.
Thanks again to the briefers. Have a great week and happy St. Patty's Day, or have a great month, rather.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Colonel Clay Brooks, and turn it over to you for any final words, sir.
Hey, just real quick, everyone that presented on this call and participating in this, I want to thank you once again for it. The presentations were great information. John, I do second your acknowledgement. We have to figure out a way to get this out more to members. So we'll continue to look at those avenues of changing the name, possibly changing the time. That will support and maximize everyone's participation in these live events. But again, thank you, and I look forward to next month's call and continued cooperation. If you have any suggestions, everyone that's on the line, please shoot that email traffic to me or Mr. James Cowser. And we would definitely take all into consideration and make the adjustments. Thank you again.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
For joining us.
7 strong.
See you next,
Thank
see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, 63rd out.
James, this is Carl McGrath. You got a second?
Let me finish stopping.